What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Another video means another dopamine hike set that buys something to feel something, and today we're back at it with another review. Today's review in question came as a little bit of a surprise to me, at least because I know there wasn't really any buildup, no leaks that I could, find or was aware of at the time. But today's review is the NECA Last of Us Part 2 Joel and Ellie 2-pack. Like I said, I didn't hear about any announcements, any leaks, any prototype photos. This just kind of appeared on the face of the earth and was out, at least online originally, but I was able to pick mine up at a Target in person. So if you do want to pick this up, you can get it for $64.99 at Target. There's no page available on the Target website yet, so if you do want to get them at Target, you have to get them in person. If you do want to get them online, though, there's the Big Bad Toy Store where I think this initially released for $74.99, and then if you don't want to go there, you can go to Amazon for $79.50. So if you don't want to go in person and pick this up at your Target, you can get them online. Links will be in the description for those online purchases if you are interested. And with all that said, there's a lot included with these figures, a bunch of stuff to go over. So let's move on to the review. Starting with the packaging, here we have the big Last of Us Part 2 logo with the Joel and Ellie title on there, and then we have a nice big picture of Ellie on this side. On the side, it just says Last of Us Part 2 Joel and Ellie 2-pack on both sides, and then here we have the back with the pictures of all the figures, a little description of the Last of Us Part 2, what's included with the figures, and then on the bottom we have the credits to the creation and production of these figures. And then when we flip it over to the front, we can open it up, and there's no figures in there. This was done in post. This was the last thing I recorded because the original unboxing got corrupted. So there's that. I fooled all of you. And then you can open, close it up, and yeah, let's move on. And then starting with articulation on Joel, you can rotate his head 360 degrees. You can have him look up and down a decent amount, and you can even have him tilt his head side to side and get a nice spherical range of motion out of his head. So overall, very happy with the range of motion we have in the head portion of this figure. Then looking at his arms, you can rotate him 360 degrees, which is always nice to see. You can have him bring up his arms a decent amount. Very impressed with how much it can go up, and then with that you can have him open up his arms a decent amount as well. So very happy to see that there. And then you can have him bring up his forearm a really good amount. I'm very impressed with that elbow bend. He can pretty much almost do a shoulder tap, so very nice to see that on this figure. Allows for a wide range of motion and the ability to hold accessories a lot better. And then you can have him rotate his forearm and the elbow 360 degrees, and then you can rotate the hand 360 degrees and bend the wrist however you please. For the most part, I say for the most part for later on, but overall very happy with the range of motion in his arms. Then taking a look at his torso, you can rotate it 360 degrees, which is always nice to see. And you can have him bend back and forth a decent amount. No complaints there. Not a crunch, but it is what it is. And then, of course, we can get that nice spherical rotation. So very happy with the range of motion in his torso. Nice to see that here, even with him having the outerwear on. And then taking a look at the legs, you can get a nice 360 degree rotation out of his legs. So very nice to see that there. And then you can actually have him do a pretty good split, about 98% of a split. Like for Joel's age, he's doing pretty good with the splits. And then of course you can have him bring his legs all the way up, so if you want to sit down, you can have him do that. The knee bend, you're not gonna have him doing any butt kicks anytime soon, which is a little unfortunate, but you can still get him into some running poses or action poses. And then you can rotate his calves 360 degrees, and then when it comes to the feet, you can rotate them 360 degrees. You can't really bend the ankles however you want, but you can get a little bit of a wibble wobble out of that, some movement, but not a ton. But overall, very happy with the range of motion in the legs, and overall very happy with the range of motion throughout his entire body. There's a few things I'll nitpick on later later in the video, but overall very happy. Then taking a look at Ellie's articulation, you can rotate her head 360 degrees as well. You can have her look up and down a decent amount as well. Very happy to see that. And then you can have her tilt her head side to side, and with all that you can also get a nice spherical range of motion out of her, so you can have her pretty much look anywhere that you want her to. So very happy with the range of motion overall in the head region of this figure. And then taking a look at her arms, you can rotate them 360 degrees, which is always good to see. And then you can bring up her arms a decent amount, which means you can open up her arms a decent amount, so it's good to see that there. And then moving to the elbows, I will say one thing, it's not as good as Joel's. I kind of don't know why. Like, you know, this character is predominantly advertised with using a bow, so you think that their elbow articulation would be just as good as Joel's, if not better. But yeah, no, you can only bring her forearm up so much, and then you can rotate her elbow and forearm 360 degrees if you wanted them to do that. And then moving down is the hand. You can rotate the hand 360 degrees and bend the wrist however you please. I will say, because she's wearing a short sleeve, the wrist bend is much better, and she's able to move it more because there is no clothing getting in the way. So yeah, overall I'm pretty, you know, alright with the range of motion in the arms. I just kind of wish the elbow bend was a little bit better, but overall everything else is fine. And then looking at her torso, you can also rotate it 360 degrees, which is always nice to see. And then you can also get her to do a back and forth bend. It feels like she can't move it as much as Joel can, which is weird because she's the younger one with also less clothing, or at least thinner clothing, but you can have her go back and forth none the less, and then you can kind of get a wibble wobble, like spherical movement out of it, but not really. I don't know why her torso articulation feels semi-limited, but it is what it is, and there's a range of motion there nonetheless. And then finally, looking at her legs, you can rotate her legs 360 degrees, so it's very nice to see that here on this figure. And then you can have her do a split, a really good one as well, so, you know, very nice to see that range of motion there. And then of course you can have her bring up her legs, so you can have her in a sitting position if you wanted her to do so, and then bringing the legs down and focusing on the knees. The knee bend is just as good as Joel's. No butt kicks anytime soon, but you can get action and running poses out of her, and you can rotate the calves 360 degrees. I just don't know why I didn't, you know, demonstrate that here. And then with the feet, you can rotate them 360 degrees, and you can kind of get more of a range of motion out of the ankles with Ellie, because she doesn't have jeans and boots clashing with each other. So overall, very happy with the range of motion in the legs, and despite a few nitpicks on this figure, I'm fairly happy with the range of motion on her. And getting into accessories, starting off with the swappable parts, first we have the hands. On top are Ellie's hands. She comes with 5 hands in total. She comes with 2 holding hands, 1 trigger finger hand, 1 hand for the bow, and then another holding hand that's a little bit, you know, more open for the foregrip of the rifle. And then on the bottom are Joel's hands. He has 2 holding hands, 1 trigger finger hand, and 1 slightly more open hand for the pump on his shotgun. And yeah, these are the only swappable parts that are included with this 2-pack. Honestly, I feel like something's missing. Maybe like a second head for Joel. And then for our next accessory, we have a backpack for Ellie. This thing is, you know, very well made. I like all the little details, the zippers, the wrinkles, the you know, wear and tear on it, and it's, you know, easy to apply or, you know, put on Ellie. Just be very careful with the straps because they are thin rubber and you do not want to tear these. So, you know, once you have it on Ellie, I would just keep on Ellie at all times just to be safe. You know, you can take it off, just, you know, be very careful. And, you know, it sits on it, you know, very snug, doesn't feel like it's gonna come off, doesn't bounce around or anything like that, so it stays on nice and tight, and, you know, it fits perfectly onto Ellie, you know, obviously. And getting into our weapons, and for our first one we have the shiv. It's nothing too crazy. It has a rag, some kind of wrapping for the handle, and then the blade is just a metallic silver. I like how they added some wrinkles, some, you know, wear and tear to the wrapping wrapping to, make it look like Joel just found a rag or something in an abandoned apartment and just kind of put this together. So I think they did a good job with the visual execution of the shiv, and yeah, I have really nothing else to, add on to that. It's just a shiv. And then up next we have Ellie's knife, which they actually did a really good job on. They were able to get all the smaller details, all the little, screws and curves and all that, that are, seen on her knife. So I was really impressed with the extra mile that they went to get all the tiny details there. But overall, just with the shiv, very happy with the visual execution here. And here we have our first machete, and I have to say NECA did a really good job at making this thing look like it fits in the world of The Last of Us. The blade is rusty, the wooden handle, it's scratched, the paint is wearing off. I think they just did a really good job at making this thing look worn and used, and that's just something about NECA products in general. They do really good, visual presentations on all of their figures and accessories, and this is just a great example of that. So yes, I am very happy with the execution of this machete. Then here we have our second machete, and this is more of the traditional design, or at least the design we're all used to seeing. It's a lot more cleaned up than the first one. This looks like it's something straight out of the box or something that's been restored rather than, all worn and used. So I'm not gonna, have a pity party over how it doesn't look all fucked up and whatnot. It gets the point across. Visual execution is good. You can tell it's a machete, and yeah, I have overall no complaints about this at all. And then for our final melee weapon, we have the axe, and I have to say I'm very impressed with the handle. It actually looks like wood. Like, this is impressive wood imitation done by NECA. They do a really good job with the visual presentation, but god damn, this looks really good. And then the blade looks worn, it looks used, it looks like it's been cleaned. You can tell that, it's been places, it's, scratched up and whatnot. And overall, very happy with the visual execution of this accessory. So keep up the good work, NECA, on, making your weapons look used and real. And yeah, 5 melee weapons is a lot for, a NECA product, but I feel like there's just one more missing. Maybe like a golf club or something. And then getting into the firearms, for our first one is Ellie's pistol, and I think they did a really good job of getting all the tiny details down. They got the safety, they got, the screw on the handles, all the, the texture on the handle. The handle actually looks sturdy, like it's been used, which is very nice to see. They even have the muzzle brake and the extended magazine attachment for this pistol. So I think they did a really good job at recreating it and getting all those little details. And yeah, very happy with how it turned out. And then we have Joel's revolver, which is also looking really good. I like how they got the texture on the leather handle. They got all the little, pins and safety mechanisms on the revolver. The cylinder looks really good. Very impressed with all the little details they were able to get down, and overall just, very impressed again, and very happy with how it came out. So yeah, no complaints about the revolver either. Then we have the shotgun, which looks really good. They're doing really good with that wood imitation on the stock. You can kind of see there's a grain to it, and they got all these tinier details like the ejection port, the sling mounts, the safety, all these little things that you would see on a real shotgun. Very impressed with that. And then of course we have a sling, and just like with the backpack straps, it's made out of thin rubber, so be careful with it. You don't want it to rip and tear, but overall very happy with the execution of this accessory. And then here we have the hunting rifle, and this thing looks really, really good. They got all the little tiny details like the screws on the scope mount, they got the dials on it as well. Then of course we have the wood imitation, we have the textures on the rifle with the handles. The bolt looks really good. Very impressed with all that. Then of course we have the sling, and just like the shotgun, made out of thin rubber, so be very careful, you don't want that to break. But they got all these tiny little details that look phenomenal, and very happy with it, how it just came out. And then looking at the final and most stressful accessory, and that is the bow. Visually it does look really good. I like the wood imitation on it. It looks like a generic bow that we would see in the game. One thing I really do like is that string on the bow is actually real string. But with that being said, please be very careful. You don't want to break it, tear it, because it is not really replaceable unless you have your own string to do that with. One cool little thing is that you can actually pull back that string and have it look like Ellie is firing an arrow, or whatever you want to do with that information. But I think that's something that's really cool. I like it when toy companies do that. I will say though, because of that, you want to be very careful. You don't want to break it. Another thing that is included with the bow is 4 small arrows, or 4 arrows, which are very small, and be careful with that, because they can be easily misplaced and easily broken because they're very thin. So be very careful of that. And then the last thing I want to mention, and the reason why I think this is the most stressful accessory, besides the fragility that I've already told you about, is trying to pose the figure with the bow and arrow and having it look like that Ellie's about to fire a arrow. It's a hassle. You can do it. It's shown on the box that you can do it, and obviously I have 2 photos of me posing Ellie being able to do that, and then later in the turntable section of the video I have her posed with the bow with the string pulled back as well. But it's just, you know, it's a hassle, but once you can get it, it looks cool, it looks nice. It takes a little bit of fidgeting, but you can do it. And overall, very happy with how the bow looks. Like I said earlier, just, you know, it can be a hassle at times, a lot of things to be careful about, hence why I think it's the most stressful accessory. But yeah, overall, very happy with how it turned out. And one thing I almost forgot to mention is that you can actually put the extra arrows in Ellie's backpack. You can fit all 4 in there if you don't want her holding her bow or it look like she's using her bow at the time. But I just really think that was a neat little thing on NECA's end to include. You know, it allows for your figure to look more busy and look more game accurate, because in the game you can see her store the arrows in her backpack. So I thought that was a really cool thing that NECA decided to do, and yeah, so just figured I would throw that in as well. And with accessories now out of the way, we can go over the visual presentation of these figures, and I think NECA did another phenomenal job here. These figures look really, really good. Like, looking at Ellie's face, she's got all her freckles on her face, and Joel's got his wrinkles, and he's got the stubble from his neck coming from his beard, and their hair just looks like it's filled, and, you know, there's layers to it. So I think they did a really good job at just capturing the looks of these characters and making their faces look alive. And then moving things down, the clothing on the figures, the amount of detail NECA put into them is insane. Like, looking at their clothing, there's stains, wear and tear, you know, rips, you know, all the wrinklage. You know, you can look at their clothing and know that they've been through stuff, and it's just phenomenal how much, you know, little details that NECA just gets down on their figures in general, let alone these figures. And, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, talk about each little thing, but, you know, I just really like that. And then one thing I also really like is how you can manipulate and bend the jacket and the button up on Joel and Ellie, so it doesn't hinder the articulation on the torso or the legs. So I thought that was really cool. Another thing I want to point out on Joel's jacket, I really like how NECA played with the wrinkles and, you know, the stains and the wear and tear to have the elbow joint blend in, so it's not as apparent. On Ellie, they couldn't really do much because she's wearing a short sleeve, but I thought that was something that was really cool as well. And then going down to their pants, just really briefly, you know, all the wrinkles and, you know, the stains or the contrast of colors that we usually see on jeans, because jeans aren't just straight blue, there's a little bit of white fading and all that, and the fact they got that down is, you know, really impressive. And then of course we got all the wrinkles, the white fading on Ellie's pants, and the wear and tear. Just, you know, figure I'd just point that out. But, you know, very impressed with the amount of effort and detail they were able to get in these characters' clothing. So yeah, good job, NECA. And then one last thing I want to briefly touch over visually is the tattoo and bracelets that are on Ellie. I think they did a really good job with the bracelets. It actually looks like a bundle of bracelets rather than like a kind of like just messed up cuff, and they actually did a really good job at making it look like there are multiple beads there rather than just like one like blob of different colors. So I'm really impressed with how like much they were able to like get down when recreating her bracelets. And then the tattoo looks really good. It looks really clean. It doesn't look like anything is like smudged, or like it looks like they just kind of copy pasted a photo onto the figure. It actually just looks like an authentic tattoo on a person. So yeah, very cool with that. So yeah, now I'm done you know, shilling NECA and how good they are at making toys. Everyone knows how good they are. I just really like talking about it. So with articulation, accessories, and me shilling NECA now out of the way, we can move on to some size comparisons just to put these figures into scale. So starting off here, we have Joel and Ellie next to each other, Joel obviously being the taller one here. Then we have NECA's big chap, NECA's the City Hunter. Jazz wears Halo the Spartan Collection Mark 7 Spartan. Jazz wears the World of Halo 3 ODST Rookie. Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series Republic Commando Scorch. And finally, we have McFarlane's The Doomslayer. And here we are at the turntable segment of the video. This is pretty much where I give my general thoughts, opinions, things I like, dislike, pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, all that kind of stuff. And first I want to get the sour stuff out of the way, so we're going to go over the cons, dislikes, weaknesses, whatever you want to call it first. And the first thing that comes to mind is Ellie's elbows and how she has less range of motion in her elbows than Joel's, which I think is really strange because, you know, Ellie has a short sleeve on, so her elbows are, you know, exposed. They're not, you know, being restrained or covered by any clothing, so arguably she should have more range of motion in her elbows, but she doesn't. And it's also weird because she's the figure who is heavily advertised with the bow, and you know, you really have to, you know, have that elbow bend to pull back the string. So I thought it was a little weird that she has less, you know, a range of motion in her elbows, so that's one thing that I kind of find weird with these figures. And this kind of plays into the second thing that kind of irks me, and it's the fact that they can't shoulder their weapons. You know, even Joel, who has a better range of motion in his elbows, he has a hard time looking down the sights of his shotgun. He can bring it up more, but he can't, you know, look down the sights or, you know, completely shoulder it. And then because Ellie already has that, you know, limited range of motion in her elbows, she has a harder time, you know, bringing up her rifle. For the most part, she can kind of like look like she's like semi hip firing it, but she can't like look down the scope or anything. So that's something that kind of bums me out, is that like these figures cannot shoulder their rifles at all. And the last thing that comes to mind in this section is that the rifle, the shotgun, and the bow don't want to stay on the back of the figure when they're slung on the back. It feels like that they fall off really easily and they're not like securely there. And I can see this being an annoyance to some people, so I figured I'd throw that in. But yeah, that's all I could really think about for, you know, cons, weaknesses, dislikes, stuff like that. And now let's move on to some of the more positives of this 2-pack. So getting into the pros, like strengths, whatever you want to consider it, starting off with the amazing quality that we get with most NECA figures. These figures look phenomenal. They did a great job at nailing all the little tiny details and making these figures look alive, look like they've been places. And the same thing goes for the accessories. There is a stupid amount of detail for the accessories with these figures, so I have to praise NECA yet again, even though having an entire segment towards the visual presentation, for how well that these figures and the accessories that come with them look. So even with Ellie's elbows being what they are and the figure's inability to shoulder their weapons, these figures do come with over 30 points of articulation, so you can still get a wide range of motion with these figures to allow for a variety of poses and playability. So that is still, you know, something to look forward to, even if, you know, the whole arm situation kind of bums me out. And then the amount of accessories and the variety of accessories is also insane. I've never seen, I know this is a 2-pack, but I still haven't seen a NECA product come with this many accessories. There's 5 melee weapons, 4 firearms, the bow with all the arrows. It's just impressive how much stuff they were able to throw in here, and I love it. If they do continue to do Last of Us figures, I really hope that they give us a bundle of accessories with each figure like they do with the Predator figures. And then the last thing I really like about these figures is that NECA handled their outerwear really well. Joel's jacket and Ellie's button up is made out of this rubbery thing that kind of bends and can be manipulated so that the torso and leg movement isn't hindered by some hard plastic jacket or button up. It's rather than it kind of clashes and moves with it like a real jacket would when you bend over or you bring your leg up. So I thought that was something that was really neat that they handled really well. And after all that, that's all I could really think of the positives. You know, there's a lot of good things about these figures, but these are the things that stuck out to me the most. So things that I feel like that are to be desired, the only things that really come to mind are the things I addressed in the cons, dislikes, weaknesses portion. You know, I only really think those things need to be touched up on. Nothing really else comes to mind that I would change or, you know, I really want from these figures, because these figures already bring so much to the table. So with all that said, do I or do I not recommend recommend this 2-pack? And the answer is absolutely. There's a lot of reasons why I think you should buy this. Starting off with the pricing, this is actually not bad for $65 because NECA figures usually go for $37, at least if you buy them in person at Target. Other places they might be a little bit more online, like at Big Bad or Amazon, but the cheapest I see them go for is about $37, and after tax that really rounds up to $40. So you know, $40 a figure, and here you're getting them for only $65 rounded up the tax. You're getting it just under $70 for 2 figures. So for the price of this and everything that's included in the amazing quality that we get from, you know, a NECA product, I say it's definitely worth, you know, the money. And then the quality, you know, like I just said, the quality of these figures is phenomenal. NECA does an amazing job at making sure their figures look good. They come with a plethora of accessories, make sure those accessories look really good, and they make sure the figures feel really good. I know that I have my issues and nitpicks with the arms on these figures, but for the most part, these are really good feeling figures, you know, with the head, torso, and legs. So I do think that these, just quality wise, are also really good figures, especially for that price that I just talked about. And then also because these are the only figures from The Last of Us that we have at the moment. After that, there were the Limb Toys figures that were announced, but I have no idea when those are coming out. And also after that, it's Funko Pop statues and other kinds of memorabilia. So these are the only Last of Us action figures currently available. So if you've been itching for some Last of Us figures, here you are. So yeah, that is why I highly recommend this 2-pack. You get these nice high quality figures with a plethora of accessories, who are the only, you know, ones in their series by NECA at the moment, and the price for them is not bad at all, especially because, like I said, a figure usually goes for $40 minimum and you're getting them for less than $80. And that's it. I have gone over everything I've wanted to go over regarding these figures. I think that they're really great figures, and I do actually recommend them. And I'm very happy to have them, and I was very happy to go over them in this video for you guys. So with all that said, if you have this 2-pack already, do you like or dislike it? And please tell me what you like or dislike it down below in the comment section. Let's get a conversation started. I like talking about this stuff, obviously, so I will most likely reply to your comments. And if you did enjoy this video, a like and a subscription would be appreciated. You don't gotta comment if you don't want to, because that's a lot of effort for your fingers, but I understand. But I also like conversation, so like I said, don't be afraid to say anything. Tell me what you like, dislike, stuff like that, and don't worry about the bell. We both know that shit is broken. And if you want to see more content like this, I have plenty of it up on the channel. I do NECA stuff regarding the Alien and Predator franchise. I also review Star Wars and Halo stuff as well, so if any of that interests you, you're more than welcome to go check it out. And with all that said, I hope you have a great day, and please stay hydrated. It is very important.